Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Online Course Secrets TV. We're gonna do it a day early today because we're doing a live interview with Christian Lofberg. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Very Swedish. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So Christian is actually an expert at branding and marketing, and I really find your ideas and your experience with branding so fascinating.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yeah, of course. So if you're watching this, if you feel like you want to join in on the conversation, I'm gonna try to pick Christian's brain here a bit. And of course, feel free to ask your questions about branding especially, because I think that's going to be such an interesting thing to talk more about. So we've already got some people joining here. Christian, you might not be able to see these comments, so I'm gonna read them out loud for you. So
Okay.
yeah. So Kev is saying, yo, what up, David? Hello, Christian. Okay, great. Okay, so let's get this started. Christian, tell us what you do. What are you all about?
Well, I'm all about, I've been always in marketing throughout my career, and I started out my own little business 3 years ago doing consultancy. But I'm focused on the strategic part of marketing. So don't ask me to help you out setting up Facebook ads or websites, the operational side. I'm pretty naive on that one. But I've always been fascinated by this concept of value. You know, how do we create value for our customers? How do we create value for ourselves as business? And how's that kind of transaction going around there? So these areas of strategic thinking, like, you know, what is a brand? And we can go back into deeper down around there, but also, you know, what is the core messages I need to provide to my customers to get them into action? What is the pricing strategy, you know, that I need to adopt? So these are the kind of big questions. You know, I've been working a lot with bigger clients in the past, and I see a lot of people, friends of mine, struggling around running their business because they don't have the time to think about all these kind of deep strategy stuff, if you want. But especially, they don't really have the tools to do it, you know, because it can become pretty complicated.
Yeah, these areas are so big and they go so deep. And for many of us, we don't get into creating online courses after having a lot of experience with branding, etc. So it's kind of something that comes in from the side. So,
right, because we are also in the doing. You know, we want to get things into action and all that. So that's my mission for the moment. You know, I'm very thankfully I still have some big clients that are kind of putting the paying for the food on the table. But on my free time, it's all about how do I simplify these kind of concepts and make them more available for solopreneurs and, you know, small business owners, basically the people who are just overwhelmed with everything that they have to do.
Right. So let's see what people are saying here. Maria Paz is saying, hi guys, great. Maria Paz, love this theme and how we live our values in all dimensions of the company and business. Mm. Yeah. I think you hit on a very important thing there. That's a lot of us are solopreneurs, right? And usually, like the branding is supposed to be one kind of department, the marketing another. It's, you know, you're not supposed to do everything. So of course it's going to be very, very complicated.
Yeah.
So what are from your points of view, from your experience, what are the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the branding?
Yeah, I think for me, it's so obvious that the brand is actually where your business starts. And the biggest misconception, I think, is that most people think about the brand as being the logo, being all those visible pieces of what you see, you know, the website, the logo, the color codes, the tone and voice that you communicate with. You know, that's all kind of the visible part. And I've been doing a couple of, you know, little video clips. I've been using the metaphor of an iceberg and saying, hey, you know, the visible thing is just the tip on top, you know, but the real stuff, the heavy duty magic and the real work is underneath that, the waterline.
Right. I've really enjoyed your content. It's been very eye-opening and has helped me a lot when it comes to understanding the concepts of branding and marketing. So
and I think as soon as we get over that preconception, saying, "Oh, this is more than the logo design," then I think people start understanding it. And so I think that's the first area. What you are doing as a coach is very much in line with it. I mean, the first big question is, setting up a business, setting up a brand is about making choices. And the more choices you make, the more specific you make, the more relevant you become. Okay. And the trick is always to see, how many choices you make without getting into too much of a niche where you become only relevant maybe for a very fraction of a number of people. And then obviously your business isn't viable. So it's always this question about, to what extent do I niche it down where I can still make sure that I get my business objectives at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. Stephanie is saying hello. Great. So if you're watching, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Thank you for watching. It's always fun to have you here. So Christian, maybe you could, for a lot of people, we can like what's the difference between branding and marketing? Let's take it from the very beginning. What would you say a brand is, and what would you say marketing is?
Well, I mean,
big questions maybe.
Yeah. So I think the question about marketing is a lot of choices of how you communicate in channels, what channels you adopt, how you present your offers. So, and again, I would kind of separate it in two pieces. You got the strategic part, and then you got the very operational part. Okay. The kind of hinge is in the middle, which is the planning phase. Okay. So, I can do on the strategic part, I can decide on, hey, this is the audience I want to focus on. This is the products and services I want to be providing. This is the price points and all that. That's the kind of strategy part. The planning part is when you sit down and say, hey, if over the next 12 months, what is my business objective? Am I trying to achieve $100,000 worth of income over the year? How many customers do I need to get on board on that? And you really start breaking it down. And from those kind of metrics, you're just saying, well, if I need to get 20 customers in months, how many people do I need to talk to? Where do I find those channels? What's stopping people to trying to listen to me? And that will start driving your operational part. Because then you start to say, well, if I need to get, 100 leads, that means I need to start posting this kind of content, etc. This kind of thing.
And you feel that the planning stage is after the strategic, like it's in the it's in the middle. It's in the middle. Like you could think that it would be in the beginning because it's kind of like, oh, what are the goals for my business, etc., etc. But for you see it as the beginning, as the middle.
The brand is your strategic goal. That's kind of your long-term goal. So that comes before. Imagine, I mean, it's basically, that's the kind of road you're going to take. Your brand defines the limits. This is I'm not going to work with those audience. I'm not going to sell those kind of product. That's the kind of limits. That's the road I'm taking in this certain direction. And then what you're doing is to say at each point, is to say, okay, over the next 12 months, where do I want to reach down the road?
Yeah.
What is that segment? And then you have to decide if I want to get, go and do those extra 3 kilometers in 3 months, in 1 year, how am I going to do it? I'm going to go by bike. Am I going to take a car? And those are all your marketing operational decisions you need to do. Am I going organic? Am I going paid? If I'm going paid, what kind of ads, what kind of frequency, what is the message, what is the behavior I'm trying to impact and change? But you break it down in slices, and you always need to keep in mind a destination, because if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't really matter which way.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah, some more people joining here. Great. Okay, yeah. So how did you get started with this, Christian? How when did this start for you?
Yeah, I could tell you a story here. It takes me really way back. I've always been interested in business and all that. So, when I was 16, 18, I knew I wanted to go into business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into one of the best business schools down here in Brussels,
Mm-hmm.
where they teach you all this finance and it's all the economics and it's pretty heavy duty and things. And I remember one day I was in the front of the class presenting the economic monetary snake at that time. It was the prelude to the euro. Basically, I was teaching the class, hey, you can play on exchange rates. And if you hedge here and over there and you go into the Financial Times and look at the rates, you can make a lot of money. And I remember that flash saying to me, well, hey, I want to be in business, but I want to be in a business of value. I want creating, making money out of changing exchange rates. I mean, where is the value behind that?
Right.
It's shifting. Huh?
Mm.
So I switched gear completely and started, I went to an agricultural school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What is more fundamental than farmers producing? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my mission was, hey, it wasn't to farmers to produce more food, but, how to be more efficient in what they're producing. How can they do better on it? How can they make a better brand and sell it further down?
Mm-hmm.
So this fascination around value started out pretty early. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I got into business very, very late. Compared to you, if you got started at 16, wow, that's a whole lifetime of experience. That's great.
Yeah.
So, and how are you using all that experience today? What are you doing exactly?
Yes. So what I'm trying to build up is what I call an academy. And the idea of the academy is to provide very punctual courses on strategic marketing topics. So the first one is branding. I'm probably going to come out with another one around pricing. So what's pricing is, I'll be teaching here the different styles of pricing strategies you could have.
Yeah.
Here is how you can start calculating and assessing your price points.
Mm.
And then the other big question is, to start teaching people how to talk price.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's amazing around pricing is that, we might be selling a car and we have no problem to talk about the engine specifications and the colors and all the options and all that. But when it comes to pricing, we freeze up.
Mm-hmm.
And pricing is basically just another feature of what you're selling.
Right.
And we have to be able to come to that level of confidence of saying, yeah, and this is the price. The same time as we were giving a time, if somebody asks, what's the time?
Right.
So
yeah, so it's a kind of more of the mindset part there.
Yeah. And so these are the kind of things. So customer experience is something coming up very important today. How do you build a customer experience? So how do you manage that? So there are two tools and techniques. And the concept is always there, minimize the theory, but focus a lot on showing examples, giving tools that you can quickly adopt and convert.
Right. Implementation, yeah. Okay, let's see if we have any more. Maria Paz is asking, and how do you harmonize practically your core values with the brand?
So Maria, do you mean your core values, your personal values?
I think she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that it's interesting because I teach a personal branding courses workshop to executives, and I keep telling them that a personal brand is basically inside out. On the personal brand, the foundations that you work are your core values and your passions. Okay, and then you start delivering what that means for a certain audience. And when I work with executives, this could be for recruiters and things like that. When it comes to a business brand, it's basically flip-flopping that over. in the sense that your business brand is actually the foundation is what the customer, your target audience are needs and frustrations, and you start.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So how do you reconcile that, Maria? Well, you should make sure that in the middle they kind of match. Because if you obviously, you could identify a core need of your customer base, but if that goes against your fundamental beliefs, well, you're going to be having a very stressful life,
right?
Because you're going to be torn apart. So,
of course. And how do you think, coming into this from the perspective of a course creator or instructor wanting to teach, etc., how deep and do you think one should go into this, like learning about the branding and etc.? How much of a part does that play in the overall picture?
Well, I mean, I think there are some fundamentals, and this is why I got 5 big questions that your brand needs to answer. And the first one, who is your audience? Okay, and I think everyone works on that pretty good. But I see everyone kind of jumping in on what they assume to be the audience and forgetting maybe to analyze all the other possibilities. Okay, so don't stop on what you may believe is the obvious audience. Do a bit of due diligence. There might be other audiences that might be smaller, but are willing actually to work with you and deliver more value to you. So who is your audience? The first one. And I think everyone kind of latches on to that. The second one is understanding the frustrations, okay, and the pain points. And I think validating them. So I think, you do a good job on that. And I see everyone kind of focusing on the course making, know your audience, focus on the transformation. I mean, that's basically in there. What I think is missing is the third question. Who is your competition and how do you differentiate yourself from there? So, what is your uniqueness compared to the competition? You need to be able to highlight that. And you need to be pretty sharp and specific on it, because you need to grab people's attention. The fourth question is all around value. So, what is the value you provide to your customer? And here I see 2 areas where people kind of fall in. One is they focus still too much talking about themselves and their features instead of transforming those features into key benefits. And the other one is the balance between the emotional and the rational.
Right.
There was a psychologist that said that we are not rational beings with emotions. We are emotional beings that sometimes think. But so, you need to lead with those emotions, but you need to provide the rational for them to justify a bit the choice. Right. So it's a balance between the two.
Yeah, and of course, and everyone is different as well. Like some people are more like hyper rational. That's my experience at least, and other are, and most people I would say are more like, yeah, this feels good. Let's listen more. Let's go with this. But for some reason, for some people, it's just like, no, just give me the numbers, just give me the data, just give me the structure, and then we'll talk. so yeah, well, that's just my experience.
Yeah, but having said that, do you know which is the most emotional transaction or business today in the world?
The most emotional transaction,
or most emotional company, if you want, that sells the most on emotion.
Probably Apple.
Yeah, that's what people say. It's actually Cisco.
Cisco, okay.
Cisco that sells mainframes to B2B businesses. $1 million worth deals.
Right.
And it's all emotional because it's based on trust.
Right. Yeah, that's
the
true.
Old saying, you can't go wrong buying IBM. And that is a huge emotional driver,
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's see here. Maria Paz is saying, thanks. Great answer. Albana, if one wants to find what to do in life, agronomy, chemistry, digital, what is the thought process you suggest to consider? How should a person decide? Maybe a bit outside of branding, but yeah, maybe not. What do What's your thoughts on that?
That is a tough one. I got two young teenagers, and I see them struggling. And I think the younger generation seems to struggle even more than maybe what we had, because
more options.
Kind of I don't know, more options, or kind of more traditional, more. The expectations were there. You go to school, get a job, and all that. Now it's a bit more loose. You're exposed to more. I would urge, my biggest thing is it would be to discover yourself. Discover yourself before you kind of commit into paths and, into structures, so, my kids, I encourage them to do the leap year, between school and university, take a year out, go out and visit. Think about
just travel, things like that. I completely agree. I think if you're stuck, or if you feel like you don't really know what to do, I think the best thing you can do is to just try a lot of different things and see what matches with you. Okay, let's see here. Indeed, a friend of mine is in big struggle with such question for years. Yeah, it's kind of, sometimes, and tell me what you think about this. Sometimes I feel like some people have the problem that they have so many different things. And for these people, giving them the advice to try more things wouldn't maybe help them that much. But for them, it's all about like priority and just coming to the realization that you can do everything, but you can't do everything at once. So it's just a matter of like, yeah, I'm going to do everything, but I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do this. And like, just put it, because if you try to do everything at once, everything just clashes.
I think there's a bit of that, but I would even go further. I hate the word priority, because
really?
it implies you're going to do everything eventually.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of mindset you have to have, because otherwise you're like, but I don't want to like take that off my bucket list. Obviously you're never going to be able to complete everything, but at least imagining like, yeah, okay, if I want to get all of this done, then I have to get started with the most important, or the one,
Yeah, but as long as you kind of compartmentalize it, for example, if you're hesitating with the options, you basically need to make a choice and then say, I'm going to go with that option for 6 months.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I'm not going to be on the fence between the two, because otherwise you're not going to achieve any, basically.
Yeah, I can completely relate and agree with that. It's really about committing to something. Otherwise, people are going to notice it, that you're not committed to it, and they're just going to go to someone else that takes it more seriously.
And the other tip I would give is, whatever you do, decide on what success will look like before you even embark.
Yeah. That's a great tip.
And if the more you can be specific on it, the better. Because then if you say, okay, I'm going to give 6 months now because I love coaching people, I'm going to give myself 6 months to focus on, to see whether I could be a great coach.
Yeah.
What success would look like to me in 6 months, I have 10 different clients that are paying me and giving me certain feedback.
Right.
And in 6 months, I can say, hey, did I achieve that? Yes or no?
Yeah, make it measurable somehow. Yeah.
And you have to set the benchmark before you start, because otherwise you're always cheating. Yeah, but 5 is good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Albana is saying, discover yourself is top tip. Lacking focus, priority. And let's see here. Albana is saying, good to know the self, but what about knowing the other's problem you can solve that matches your skill? Yeah, there's always that balance, right? Like first, this is the way I see it, and tell me if you agree, Christian. It's like, it doesn't really matter if you're serving someone if you're not doing something that you like to do. And the other way around as well, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, at least in business terms, if no one's interested in getting that help. So it's about finding that match, I think.
It's definitely about finding that match. The question, I think, was more also on, how do you actually get in and understand what that need is? I think we're becoming a bit too B2C and B2B, and it's time to become H2H again, human.
Yeah.
Go,
I like that.
go and observe people, talk to people, just connect, but, not over Messenger, not over chat box, and, we're connecting here, we're not face to face. But at least you have that kind of in connection, because otherwise you'll never get there. You'll never find the insights.
That's true. Let's see here. Albana is saying, love such balanced concept. Great. So, Christian, I know you have a Facebook group, a community you're starting about this. Maybe you can tell us a bit about it and what's your plans for it?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I want to develop this academy, but I also want to have a community around this. So if you're in the community for the moment, like I said, we're kicking it off there. I'm putting some of these tips I have, maybe some templates and tools people can use. And also, hopefully, we get a certain degree of engagement that we can start really thinking about, on the strategic part of your business, what is missing there, and see if I can provide some coaching help and all that. So that's kind of the intent for the moment. And so I'm kind of looking forward. Feel free to join, obviously.
Yeah, and you'll find me in there as well. I'm already in there.
You are, I know.
Yeah.
You were one of the first, so hopefully we get there.
So I'm gonna post the link now if anyone wants to join. Here's the link to Christian's group. I can warmly recommend it. I wouldn't have you here on as a guest if I didn't really like your content and also your style. It's not pushy but just delivering a lot of value. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, great, right, great.
Cool.
I love kind of being a bit teaching. So
yeah. So we're gonna wrap things up here. Do we have any final questions or? While you write your final questions, Christian, any last words? Anything you want to share with the audience before we wrap this up?
I think we covered a lot, and I just want to thank you, David, for what you're doing to your community and the support. So that's great.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your knowledge and experience. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions there? Or
just people saying thank you.
Yeah.
So if you have any further questions, just put them in the comments, and I guess you can connect with them later on, right?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Hey, everyone, keep safe in these uncertain times.
Yeah. Online business, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for watching. See you again next time.
Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.